On today's episode of The Unwritten Rule, we wrapped up our offensive position previews, finished with tight ends, had a good discussion, mainly Brett Norfleet centric, and just about the tight end room as a whole, kind of our expectations in a year where Eli Drinkwitz and some of the offensive staff has kind of promised a little bit more to come out of the tight end. So we'll see if that rings true, kind of give our thoughts on if we think that's going to ring true, and did some predictions for Brett Norfleet, did some Gavin Hoffman stuff, of course, the transfer from Iowa coming in for his redshirt freshman season. I think he could be an interesting piece to that tight end room. We talked about that and just what this offense could be with a healthy Brett Norfleet after he struggled with some injury stuff last year. And if this tight end room can finally be sort of a considerable part of this Mizzou offense. So really good conversation there. Finished up with some quick hits, had some good discussions, talked about Mizzou men's basketball's first 4 games in SEC play, which are going to be a gauntlet. Talked about that. Did a little exercise with who we think could be on the Mizzou list of, I guess, or what player would represent Mizzou on the Freaks list. Bruce Feldman of The Athletic puts that out every year. That just came out. Mizzou didn't have a submission, but I did ask Kenny and Payton who they think from Mizzou's roster could be the most freak athlete or would have the best chance to maybe make that list, could make that list in the future. So that was a good discussion. I meant to turn to this to number 1 on that freaks list was Jeremiah Smith, the Ohio State wide receiver, who, yeah, I mean, you can just go look him up if you don't know him. I meant to bring this up when we were talking about this too. He's got the 4th highest odds, highest non-quarterback odds on FanDuel to win the Heisman Trophy, plus 1,100. I think it's a really wide open race. Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, both ahead of him, is plus 900. Arch Manning, top odds at plus 700 to win the Heisman on FanDuel right now. I think Jeremiah Smith be an interesting gamble. I think either of those 2 quarterbacks ahead of them. Arch, it'd be interesting to pick him, given kind of the unprovenness of all that. But Texas is going to be set up really well, as is Ohio State. So both those guys are interesting to me from a Heisman Trophy standpoint. But we do know Jeremiah Smith, number 1 on the freaks list. So that was a good discussion as well, among other newsy items in quick hits. So great show to get previews for Monday. Our first one, we'll do defensive line to start things out and go through. So for now, enjoy the tight end position preview. We'll get things started with the unwritten rule, which begins right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Peyton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule, presented on the Believe Network, brought to you by FanDuel. Today is Friday, August 8th, and we are wrapping up the offensive side of the ball for Mizzou position previews. We got tight ends to do today. We've done offensive line, wide receiver, quarterback, running back. I feel like that one meme where I think we posted it. Yeah, Spice Adams. I think we posted it the other day on the Unwritten Rule account. But we're doing tight ends. Got some takes to give about that room. It's been an interesting room, somewhat underused, I think, in the Drinkwitz era is maybe the best way I can describe it.
You can drop this somewhat.
Yeah, okay. It's been underused in the Drinkwitz era since he's taken over in 2020. I have some stats later on that will go into my bold take. I've done this now with receivers and tight ends where I've just looked at every player at that position and their stats in the years that Drinkwitz has been the head coach. And there's just some very funny names that I'll read out later. But tight end room for Mizzou, a couple of returning guys, Brett Norfleet, Jordan Harris, Jude James, Adam Molitor as well. And then a few newcomers, 2 from the portal, and Gavin Hoffman, friend of the show, and Vince Brown, Gavin Hoffman over from Iowa, Vince Brown from Colorado State, and then Dakota Terrell, the 3-star freshman. Very intriguing build. I know, Kenny, I was reading one of your articles over on Mizzou Today from late last month, and there was a quote I know tight end coach Durham Cato had about him. So an interesting room. Durham Cato, too, an interesting coach. Obviously, an interesting storyline to come back. Was out of football for a little bit, kind of associated himself with Kirby Moore, got brought over onto the staff, offensive analyst turned tight ends coach. So there's some intriguing stuff about the room, but some stuff, I temper my expectations after 5 seasons where I believe most yards accumulated by a player at this position was actually an injured Brett Norfleet last year with 235. When I turn to what I'm most excited about, we haven't hit it on this podcast. We are part of the fleet, big Brett Norfleet guys. I know you two even were looking at him in high school before he was even at Mizzou. He's had 2 interesting seasons. I think to me the most exciting thing is the potential resurgence for him and having a full season with him healthy. I know he struggled with some injury stuff last year. Did still up his production, 26 catches for 235 yards. He only had 18 for 197 in his freshman year. Did have 3 touchdowns that year and only 2 last year. But to me, that's where I go. The easy place to kind of start with this room is and maybe starts and ends depending on how you feel about the outlook of it as a whole, is with Brett Norfleet and his potential growth in year number 3. What were you joking about? Was he up for the Senior Bowl? And that we were just like, wow, I can't believe it's already, we have Brett Norfleet like pre-draft All-Star game stuff. It might not have been the Senior Bowl. It might have been the Shrine Bowl, one of the Shrine Bowl. It's wild because we obviously knew him as a true freshman. But that's where I go for what I'm the most excited about, is him potentially having a bigger-ish season after struggling with some injuries last year.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it with the starts and ends comment. I think this tight end room goes as Brett Norfleet goes. Yeah, like we said, I mean, this has just not been a room that's been used under Drinkwitz very much at all. I mean, Nico Hay was maybe the most productive receiver in the tight end room early in Drink's tenure. I mean, it was kind of a joke how non-existent the tight ends were in the passing game in 2022 in particular. I remember, I think they maybe had, I know Chep Yoder had 3 catches that year. I think Tyler Stevenson's had like, he had like 5. So it's just been a room that I don't think we've really taken into account a lot of the time. Brett Norfleet has kind of changed that a bit. There was a lot of excitement with him his freshman year. He got better and better as the year went on. I thought I think it was 2 touchdowns against Arkansas. He had a touchdown against LSU. He was making plays. I think people really set themselves up for a bit of disappointment last year, expecting him to take a huge leap forward. Obviously, injuries didn't help. I don't believe he even played in the bowl game because of his injuries. And he still had an uptick in stats, so there's a lot of hope for him going into year 3. He's also developed a lot, like right in front of our eyes as a blocker. I remember he was really rough around the edges as a run blocker early in his freshman year. He got a lot better by the end of the season. And last year, again, injuries didn't help anything, but I still think he showed consistency as a blocker. That's not really his job on the roster, I think. I think he is more that receiving threat. I think guys like Jordan Harris are more of that edge ceiling blocker type. But the production you get out of the tight end room, I think, is mostly going to come from Brett Norfleet. Gavin Hoffman is an intriguing guy. To maybe, I think there's an upside there receiving wise as well with him. But I mean, Brett Norfleet, like you said, already getting a little bit of draft buzz. I mean, he's 6'6", 263 listed on ESPN. That's pretty intriguing size to play with. But again, we just got to kind of see. I think it's possible tight ends see a bit more production this year because you're going to have a first-year quarterback no matter who wins the job. Like a first-year true full-time starting quarterback, that is. And tight ends have always been a security blanket in any offense, in any scheme. So maybe you see early on, especially Bo Perbula or Sam Horn, kind of rely on someone like Brett Norfleet early on in the season.
I think the most exciting part that you can kind of take from this as well is that Mizzou has recognized, I mean, how much the tight end room has changed. Drinkwitz mentioned it in his opening press conference before fall camp and saying, like, from even 5 years ago to now. Like, it's just a completely different room. And I think putting more of an emphasis on the position by having a strictly tight ends coach and not having Eric Link split his duties as special teams coordinator and tight ends coach is a big step forward in that. And this is Cato's second year as the primary tight ends coach, third year on staff, as he served as a kind of an assistant to that role as an offensive analyst. So, it's a big step moving forward. And with what Drinkwitz said is, like, tight ends are premium in this league. Like Payton said, a safety blanket, a guy that you can trust, on short routes. But they also want to have tight ends playing downfield. And that's one big thing that Drinkwitz talked about just when he mentioned tight ends in his opening press conference before fall camp. Don't really know how much that'll play because they do have some pretty secure deep threats, guys that they trust downfield, with Marquise Johnson being one of those primary options. So I don't know how much that opens with it, but I think the one, I guess, issue with the catching ability, and there's only one real proven pass catcher in this room in Brett Norfleet. I guess we can talk about Vince Brown being one who has the most snaps of these guys, including, time in the JUCO ranks as well. But for a guy like Brett Norfleet, got banged up a lot last year, just different parts of the season. I mean, it's hard to, try to trust in someone that else can play behind him, because we know Jordan Harris's responsibilities are mainly in the blocking game. Gavin Hoffman has, been raved as a blocker, but really hasn't seen opportunities in the passing game. There's a lot of buzz around Jude James from what Durham Cato said, and a lot of excitement for the steps he took forward at the position. So maybe that's who the guy you rely on. But there's a lot of, uncertainty, I think, on, who you're really going to look to. And I think there's going to be a lot of movement early on in the season on trying to find the best tight end options for different roles. And another big thing is that a lot of these guys maybe won't see snaps on offense. They'll see a handful of snaps on special teams. That's another thing Drinkwitz and the staff mentioned, Eric Link and Drinkwitz, trying to get a lot more of the better players, maybe some starters and special teams in different spots, and tight ends, linebackers. Those are, some big bodies that can be on the field. And a lot of these tight ends will see their roles in special teams.
What do you guys think of that, with particularly the potential of like Brett Norfleet taking snaps in special teams? Because I actually highlighted that as one of my potential maybe concerns with this room. And I think it does make sense with, you've got players like Dakota Terrell and Jude James, who I think only had 22 snaps last year. You're trying to get him a little bit more run his freshman year. Special teams is an easy way to do that. Eric Link, like Kenny mentioned, was once the tight ends coach along with his special teams duties. So he understands maybe how to use those guys a bit. I just don't know, particularly with Brett Norfleet, and maybe even like a Gavin Hoffman. And again, my bold prediction's kind of about him, but I just, I worry a little bit with that. And I don't necessarily buy the lack of involvement thing. I think, Kenny, you highlighted the obvious kind of roadblocks to like tight ends being deep threats. I don't think Missouri needs to focus on that as much, but I think in part too, it's also, like you said, with the reps thing, these guys just aren't proven yet, and they have to figure out a way to do that somehow. So I don't know. Where do you guys stand with the tight ends, playing special team stuff? And maybe is that a good way to get some of these guys some reps to continue to make that position more involved? Because in theory, you have Brett Norfleet for one, maybe two more seasons, depending on how his draft stock goes, but you're going to have someone to follow that up eventually.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that includes someone like Brett Norfleet. I don't think you have an offensive starter who really profiles as a receiving tight end. I don't think that's the guy to put on kickoffs or any sort of special teams. Maybe as a blocker, like on extra points. That's about it. But I can see it for guys like Jude James, Dakota Terrell. I think those two guys in particular profile really well for that type of role. I do hope Jude James can take a step up and maybe get some snaps offensively. I know, correct me if I'm wrong, when he came to Mizzou, I mean, he was listed as a straight athlete. So, I mean, that there's clearly some intrigue there, but I definitely see him profiling as someone that could play special team, a real good portion of special teams. I wouldn't say I would discount anyone else on the roster, like on the tight end, in the tight end room, playing on special teams, but I do think it would be really, really risky to put a guy who is a receiving tight end first. You're really kind of expecting to have a huge role on offense, and he's coming off a lot of injuries. I wouldn't expect Brett Norfleet to be that guy that plays two phases.
Yeah, you're fine using all the other tight ends. I can include Gavin Hoffman in that conversation too. Payton, a lot of these guys can be on the field. I wouldn't even be surprised if Dakota Terrell doesn't take a snap this year. Mizzou, recognized, he came in the summer. He wasn't an early enrollee. He's a freak athlete too, just with that size. He's already put on a good amount of weight. I think he put on close to 20 pounds. He's at 6'8", 220 pounds. Played both ways in small town Oklahoma for Pensacola. And that's not like a slight on him saying that he won't play. It's just, he's a development project. It's a good project to have. It's a guy who has all these intangibles. Now it's just putting it together. His primary focus for a lot of his life was basketball, and he saw an opportunity to play football at the next level. So I wouldn't even be surprised if he doesn't see the field, and they just kind of continue to mold him in the right direction as they see him as a tight end or just, something in that offense for the future.
Do you guys have any other general tight end room, maybe concerns or questions? I wonder, I think with Luther Burden and Theo Wees and obviously what Mizzou was able to do last year, overcame some of the injury stuff to Brett Norfleet. Does a possible, I did this with Ahmad Hardy too. I don't want to wish injuries upon people or speak that into existence, but does him getting hurt worry you at all for how this offense can kind of churn, or are there any other concerns with this room that you guys have as a whole?
I don't think it concerns me. We haven't heard really anything about Brett Norfleet not bouncing back well or anything, so I wouldn't say that's a concern. The questions I have with the room are really not about. It's kind of the same as it's always been. It's not really about the players themselves. Is Drinkwitz going to be committed to using the tight end room more on the offensive side? Now, obviously, with Kirby Moore in the fold, he's going to have a lot more oversight on that. The buck will ultimately probably stop with Drinkwitz still for that question, though, because it just hasn't been really much of a factor in most of his time at Mizzou. And I'm not going to really... It hasn't been a big enough issue to where it's really been something to hold against Drinkwitz, but I'd like to see a little more production out of the tight end room, especially with someone like Brett Norfleet, who, came in as a local guy, is a supreme athlete, such great size and everything. I'd like to see him kind of build off of, especially his 2023 year, and really turn into a true threat on offense.
I don't really have any concerns either. You're not really banking on too much from the tight ends. I think anything that you get out of them just offensively, just in the passing game, because I think there's a lot of good blockers on this team, will just be an additional bonus just to what you're going to get. I think there's going to be a lot that we kind of see in those first 4 games, especially against some of those non-conference games that aren't Kansas, an opportunity to see if any of those guys can hit the field, get a lot of offensive snaps late into some of those games. And I just wanted to share this photo because I didn't mention this as well. Drinkwitz is big in Norfleet's recruitment, but seeing them sized up next to each other for our YouTube viewers with this tweet, I think Brett looks the part for that tight end spot.
Yeah, that's wild, just towering over. I think you guys are both right. To me, it's just a question of, if there's another, you hope there's not another workaround if he does pick up an injury or something happens again during the season, just because again, those backups are so unproven. That could maybe feed into my my bold prediction though for the room, which is I do have to gravitate, if I'm not going to make anything with Brett Norfleet, I had to do something Gavin Hoffman related. And I settled on a number, and this is where I went back and looked. I mentioned Brett Norfleet. He's had the most receiving yards for tight end. I believe the most receptions as well, 26 for 235, and had 18 for 197 the year prior. So it's, there is evidence that Drinkwitz is starting to use the tight end room more. 2022 is very grim. It was just Tyler Stevens and Ryan Horst Camp were the only 2 guys that caught passes in the tight end room. Nico had 8. And Kibet Chepiater. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong line. Kibet Chepiater, 3 catches, 26 yards. 2021, Nico had 145 and 130 in 2020. Shout out Messiah Swinson, 2 catches for 38 yards.
Wow, we're going down a trip.
I say these names in part for you, Payton,
Swinson,
to remember. Logan Christofferson, 3 catches for 47 yards in 2020. So I was trying to find a median number for that. And I wanted to be a little bit bold, where I think, to me, if it is going to be, if Drinkwitz and Kirby Moore and Durham Cato and what they're saying kind of comes to fruition, they do want to use tight ends more as pass catchers in the offensive attack, as safety blankets, whether it's short routes, whatever. I went with my bold prediction for Gavin Hoffman, friend of the program. Go watch that interview with him on the show from earlier this summer. I went with 8 catches for 50 yards. I went a little, that might be a little bit out there, probably too much, given that Jordan Harris might be, you think that's reasonable?
I think that's obtainable.
Yeah, it's conservative. Should I go higher?
I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but I think that's obtainable. I'm looking at Jordan Harris's numbers from last year. He had 5 receptions for 48 yards. And that's probably,
that was with Jordan Harris. No disrespect, because I do think he's a great blocker, but that was with a few pretty big drops from Jordan Harris.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe in part too, they saw maybe a little bit more targets with Brett being banged up at times. But he was targeted. And I think Gavin Hoffman's definitely seen as a better pass catcher. So I don't think that's out of nowhere, Jack.
All right. I'm going to up it. I'm going to up it to 75 yards.
Okay, I can't see that.
75 receiving yards.
25 yards goes from that's attainable to, okay, I don't see that.
I wonder,
I don't know. I just feel like 50 is a good number.
Is there also maybe and you have it with Norfleet too, but is there also maybe a goal line piece with Gavin Hoffman? Like, I saw a Durham Cato quote just talking about his size and how fast he is. Kenny just said it. He's pretty praised as a pass catcher. We had this conversation with the running backs too, with a guy like Marquise Davis kind of being that bowling ball to kind of punch in some of those short yardage goal line situations. I wonder if maybe could Hoffman maybe be an outlet, whether it's now or in the future, as like kind of a goal line pass catching tight end in those situations too.
I really think you're going to see a lot of the run game when you get in the red zone and on the goal line. I think this is a team built to run the ball in those scenarios more than throw it. But I am surprised we haven't seen a little more action out of the tight ends down in that sort of area of the field. I mean, Norfleet, I believe all 3 of his touchdowns came in the red zone in 2023. I honestly don't remember the touchdown catches he had in 2024, or one of them was against Oklahoma in the red zone. I do remember that, I'm pretty sure. But I do think that's a good thought, Jack, and it does play into my bold prediction. I'm going to say Brett Norfleet. I do think there's going to be an element early in the year, especially where whoever the first year starter is really leans on kind of that safety blanket aspect. I say Brett Norfleet eclipses 350 yards, and I say he has at least 4 touchdowns this year.
I like it.
Can also see that when I think that's
okay. Fine, 400 yards. No,
I thought about 400, but I really don't think they'll get to 400. I do not. I don't
Payton,
think
if you wanted that second touchdown for Brett Norfleet, it was against UMass. I remember that one too.
Oh, yep.
Absolutely zero memory of that.
8 yards.
I can recall.
So I guess that was a red zone touchdown. Okay, mine, and you guys are going to hate me, and Payton, you can just leave if you don't want to hear this one. But Vince Brown is a replacement for Tyler Stevens. Like, that is just his job. Like, he is replacing Tyler Stevens as that veteran presence in the tight end room. He is an option there that can play on the field. I think he's going to score at least 1 touchdown this season. I think there is an opportunity that he finds the end zone at one point. Tyler Stevens didn't score last year. He scored in 2022. I just think maybe there's an opportunity that something opens with this offense. They've done it a couple of times where they just kind of randomly put someone on the field. Daniel Blood made a great catch in 2023. Things like that happen.
That is Kenny's favorite catch ever. I swear. He loves that catch.
There's a lot behind it. He's from Louisiana. He didn't have an LSU offer. I think there is an opportunity for Vince Brown to see the field in some capacity where he just catches a touchdown because no one was expecting it. They probably see him on the field. They weren't planning for him. I'm going to set the over-under at half. I don't know if I can. No, I will just say he'll score 1. I say he'll meet 1.
Can I double down on that? Can you guess a game? What game will that touchdown come in?
Let's say Louisiana. What? I think that
that's boring.
I will say
Probably
that's
right.
not a bad prediction. I believe the coaches have said some nice things about Vince Brown, and I mean, 1 touchdown. He had 3 last year. I know it was at Colorado State. It's a different ball game, really, out in the Mountain West, but I don't think that's unreasonable.
He played against Texas. He's played against some big schools. It's something Durham Cato mentioned that they liked about him. He has that track record. Screw it.
He
I'll say
took the
Texas
field
A&M.
against Texas.
Texas
Definitely
A&M
can't take that away from him.
is the
I'll,
game
I'll say
now.
Texas A&M. I think
Okay.
that could be a night game because it's going to be the blackout game. You're not expecting it. Tyler Stevens scored in the blackout game, night game against Georgia.
That's true. That's a good
think
parallel to draw.
History repeats itself.
Okay. All right. There's some tight end prediction stuff. Yeah, I think it's like the hope again. It just kind of lives and dies. I think with Brett Norfleet, you just have to hope for a healthy season for him, and I think that can become a real weapon. And I'm just interested to see, whether that talk is just kind of blowing smoke or whether in the post Luther Burden era, and they need some more pass catching help if Mizzou does rely a little bit more, at least on Brett Norfleet, to be kind of that offensive punch and give them another boost there. So we'll see. Intriguing room under Durham Cato for next season for the Mizzou tight ends. All right, that's offense done. Where are we ranking it in our overall position rankings? I meant to pull those up.
I can't even remember what my last one
I'm pulling them up. I believe we did. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did we have receivers one or running backs one?
I don't remember. I think we had running back.
Running backs one. So I think it was running backs, receivers, offensive line, quarterback is what we went.
That sounds right, to be honest.
that
That sounds like what my list would be, at least.
I have them officially written down. So where would you guys like to rank tight ends?
Again, I don't think it's that consequential of a position to Drinkwitz and just the offense. I do think it'll matter a little bit more just because I do think it's important for Norfleet to be a reliable target for a new QB. Because those are just the easy middle of the field completions that you look for a lot of the times to tight ends. So I will say I think it's a decent room. I don't think there's many question marks with it. So for that reason alone, I'm going to put it above QB and O-line, and I'll put it right smack dab in the middle at 3.
That's exactly where I thought it would go. I was thinking I was really between offensive line and tight end, just something in that range.
Yeah, I think it's, it's so tough because offensive line has more question marks, but there's also more guys on the field at the position. Whereas you're like Brett Norfleet has done this in the SEC for 2 straight seasons. And if he's healthy, I think you trust him to be a relatively significant part of the offense. I will agree with 3. Okay, so I have it written down now, so we're set in stone. We won't have to forget when we flip over to the defense side of the ball. We have running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, offensive line, quarterbacks. I don't think running backs are going to hold that number 1 spot. I'm just going to make a prediction right now. I think there's a position group that's going to beat it. But we'll get there.
Think running back is number 1 right now then?
I think it's number 1 right now of the ones we.
But you don't think it will end number 1.
I do not think.
You think that then?
Bonus prediction: I do not think it will end number 1. There's a position. We're not ranking long snappers.
Brett LeBlanc, you confident, Kenny?
Brett LeBlanc S tier. Kenny just did it for those on the YouTube.
We couldn't really.
Can you try again? Can you bend your camera down and try it again? He doesn't want to do that. All right. There's tight ends. We have defense now. We'll do defensive line for the next show, and I have a bunch of good receipts, Mizzou Today receipts saved up from some good defensive line pieces. I read that I'll pull from for that. So that'll be exciting. We got defense. So there's our offense rankings. Tight end preview. Welcome to the Norfleet for next season. And for now, we will segue and finish the rest of the show with quick hits. Okay, quick hits time. We'll finish out the show. Kenny, you're giving us a very somber start to quick hits with your jersey of the week. It's news we have to report, I'm afraid. But what is your jersey of the week?
Yeah, Ennis Rakestraw injury update. This comes from Dan Campbell at Lions Camp earlier in the week. Said it's going to be a while with Ennis Rakestraw suffering a shoulder injury. Ennis posted to his Instagram this morning that he had successful shoulder surgery, and he said the road to recovery starts now. Very unfortunate for a guy who's really talented at the cornerback position, but has been banged up with injuries. I mean, dating back to his time at Mizzou, even to his freshman year. So second round pick, it's just very unfortunate start to his NFL career. And this is year 2 for him. And he had an injury last year as well with the Lions.
Yeah, really, like you said, Kenny, I mean, injuries have just plagued this guy throughout his whole career. When he's been on the field, it's been excellent. just both in college and in the pros. I mean, it just has been a thing that has dogged him. I mean, he didn't get to play in his last career game at Mizzou, I believe, because he was hurt. Just a bummer. I really do hope the best for Ennis because he deserves a real shot.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions seemed like they really wanted to give him chances to go out and show his stuff last year, and it just he couldn't stay on the field because of injury, and it does suck. But hopefully, he can have a speedy recovery and get back on the field soon.
There are good updates around training camp for Mizzou players. I know that D-Rob, he's listed as a starter out in Arizona. He had an injury-plagued rookie season, but seems like he's having a nice camp, and so that at least there's that. Don't want it to be all downer for Mizzou in camp.
A good silver lining. Yeah, that Cardinals D-line room has been getting a lot of buzz. D-Rob's been a little bit of a part of that. So that on a good news note for Mizzou in the pros. But yeah, hopefully Ennis can get a speedy recovery with that. Payton, your jersey.
My jersey of the week is going to be another preseason award, guys. Ahmad Hardy, he was named to the Doak Walker Award watch list. Of course, that's the nation's best running back award. Not really a surprise. Ahmad Hardy was turning heads at ULM. Obviously, now you step up to the SEC, going to have even more eyes on you. So just not surprising, but important note for Ahmad Hardy.
Yeah, award season strikes again for Mizzou in the preseason. I have such high expectations for Ahmad Hardy. I hope he can hit the ground running with Mizzou. I think it'll be a good indicator of the ceiling. Go watch the running backs breakdown episode for more information, I suppose.
We broke our own rule. We said once we talk about one award for one player, we don't mention the others. And this is the second time we've mentioned an award for Ahmad Hardy.
I didn't know if we were keeping that canon or not.
I didn't know either, but I guess we're not. I guess we broke it.
There were other things you could have chosen this week.
Like what?
Well, he just said Darius Mizzou's.
Here's a clicky headline.
Experience.
Former Mizzou basketball player is now going to be a cop. And you click it, and you can find out.
Okay, well, I picked Ahmad Hardy.
Did you make that headline, man?
Doak Walker Award watch list. So
nice one, Payton. My jersey of the week. I am gonna give it. I guess if we're making a Mizzou connection, I'll give it to Whit Hafer. And because I'm giving it to Whit Hafer. If you're watching on the YouTube, Bruce Feldman, who writes for The Athletic, released his freaks list. He does that annually. It's like 100, a little bit more than 100, I think, players that he deems are the most freaky athletes. He goes and he gets all the numbers and stats and data from all these college teams, and they come back with just these insane players and all their stats, and he compiles a list. It's very fun to read. Mizzou did not have a player appear on the freaks list. Last year, fellas, correct me if I'm wrong, it was Membu, and I think Darius Robinson might have been on it last year too.
I know Membu
maybe Burden.
I don't recall. No, Burden. I don't think
Burden wasn't on it. I believe Armand Membu was.
Back-to-back years, if I'm not mistaken, his sophomore and junior year.
I know he made it, but they didn't have a guy on the freaks list this year. But it did inspire me to ask you guys, who do you think would be Mizzou's leading candidate if they were to have a player appear on the freaks list? Who would you give it to? And it was inspired for me by reading Kenny's article about Whit Hafer, of course, transitioning from tight end to offensive line, gaining 45 pounds. That to me is like a freaks list coded kind of situation with him. He's 6'6", 301, and he's gained all this weight. And maybe he could be a freaks list player in the future. But who would you guys nominate if you have to put one guy from this year's roster, or even a couple? I had a few names that I wrote down.
I'd go with Caden Green. I mean, he's already kind of talked about as like the most draft friendly player at Mizzou. I mean, he's been a monster since high school. Everyone knows that. Not surprising that he's not on this list, but I do think if there was one, Bruce Feldman normally does not go with like super young guys unless they're super like unbelievably athletic. He normally goes for upperclassmen. I'd go with Caden Green.
his number one spot is a sophomore.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Like I didn't say, I just said, like I said, he doesn't always adhere to that rule.
Yeah.
Nick Barber was also on there, like as a true freshman, I believe, but a lot of the times it is not, like lower classmen guys.
I think Peter Woods isn't Peter Woods also a sophomore from Clemson? He might be a junior.
Like he said, Jack. Like he said.
Like I said,
All right, like you said,
doesn't always adhere to that rule, but a lot of the list is going to be upperclassmen.
Dominic McKinley is also a sophomore.
Like I said, he doesn't
So,
always
like,
adhere
Amari
to that
Washington
rule.
He said with this year, there's a lot of underclassmen at the top.
Amari Washington is a true freshman, man. He's
Okay.
not.
I don't know. I didn't know that. If that
He's
was
not.
True.
He's not. I don't think.
Mine is Marquise Davis. I feel like that's a good one. Just looking at him, he looks like a freak for his just like physique already as a freshman. Don't really see any running backs on the top. Is that 15 on that list? So maybe there's some running backs to slip in the back end. I know some good ones out there, especially in the Power 4 level and the more premier blue bloods. But if I had to go with someone, I think it would be him. And I think people posted alone. I think I saw a photo on Wednesday before we recorded this show that someone already posted and said, this is what a true freshman at Mizzou looks like. And it was Marquise Davis.
That is a good one. Go listen to the running backs episode again. So the other names I wrote down, Kenny, I'm a little surprised. I went largely based on, because the one thing that Feldman has that obviously we don't is he gets all the 40-yard dash times, the bench press and the squat and all that stuff. That adds to it. We, of course, don't have that. But I went on the just Mizzou measurables. Jack Lang is 6'8", 305 as a true freshman. I mean, that's one, at least maybe not now, but one for the future, maybe if he kind of stays at that elite measurables. Again, I don't know what he like tests or whatever, but he was one I wrote down. I wrote down Marquise Johnson only because he won the 100-meter dash state championship in Texas when he was in high school, and I figure that's a good indicator that you're just really, really fast. That was like another quantifier. Dakota Terrell, shout out tight ends, 6'8", 220, but former basketball player. He was a name I noted. Another guy from the offensive line, Johnny Williams, 6'7", 327, just massive. And then I also wrote down Donovan Olubade. He's only 6'2", 207, but just we've seen the catches and the plays that he's made at camp. I feel like, could be one that appears to have the athleticism to be a name going forward. So a lot of young guys. Maybe Mizzou will have a Freaks List appearance going forward. The only other note I had on this, I don't know if you guys read the article at all, but I didn't realize Jeremiah Smith, he said in it that he was just eating fast food all of last season. Did you guys see that?
I did not see that.
Apparently his entire freshman year, he was like, I ate Wendy's after and before like every game. And like now he's getting with a nutritionist. Had 1,300 receiving yards as a true freshman. And apparently now he's eating healthy. It's just insane what some of these guys can do. But
I'm reading through some of the lists now. There are quite a few underclassmen on this list. There's quite a few of them.
That when Jack was talking, I was going through and searching all the names.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them. I thought there were a lot less. Maybe that's just years in past, but this year there are quite a few underclassmen. So
that's funny. Yeah, Jeremiah Smith has just been eating Wendy's and racking up crazy receiving yards. All right.
Like no cap, and he's the main bird.
Shawnee's main bird of the week. Kenny.
My Shawnee's main bird of the week goes to Trajan Greco.
Good one.
He was a bird. I put this down a while ago, and so I forgot to write down which one it is. But this comes from Joey Van Zoomerman from Mizzou on SI. He got these little number updates out during one of the fall camps right before. Trajan Greco, who was number 3, moved to 21. Darius Smith, who was also number 3, both on defense, moved to 19. And then Brett LeBlanc switched from 49 to 51. There were 4 number 3s coming into fall camp. 3 of them were on defense.
So who's the last number 3 remaining on defense again? Who is?
Phillips.
Mose Phillips.
Oh, Mose Phillips. Okay.
Kenny, big news. Brett LeBlanc, new number.
Yeah,
new
I
number,
think
new man.
would be good. I think.
Yeah.
So
You
It's
want
better
to
than 49.
You want to do your long snap again?
No, I think 44 would be a good long snapping number, though. So maybe he'll switch.
Why is
to
that?
that. Just seems like a good long snapping number. 4-4.
I think 44. You're not
44,
wrong.
that's me.
I think it's a good fullback number. 44.
That's a good take. I like that take.
I think it's a good fullback number. Payton, main bird.
My main bird of the week is going to be the NCAA tournament. the NCAA voted not to expand March Madness past 68 teams for the 25-26 season. So we avoid that horrible reality where it gets extended to like 70 something for at least another season. If you're looking for a bird connection, the Monmouth Hawks have been to the NCAA tournament, the Division I NCAA tournament, 4 times in 1996, 2001, 2004, 2006. That number will not expand this year. So Monmouth will have to be one of the 68 teams to make it a 5th time.
Did that Monmouth team, Payton, do you remember the Monmouth team that was known for the crazy bench sellies?
That
team
missed. They lost
missed
in
the
the
NCAA tournament.
They lost in the conference finals. I believe it was to Iona, their conference tournament finals, and they were like one of the first teams left out. I think like Tulsa made it that year over them.
Okay.
It was one of the more controversial years. It's been a while. I don't remember the exact year, but I know the year you're talking about.
Shout out. They had the crazy bench celebrations. I loved that back in the day. Yeah, great news. No expansion. Sorry, Dennis Gates. He will be sad.
I got a question, though. I think we can all agree, 68 is a good number. Get to 64 once the tournament officially starts. Why? Like, why are people so against it? Like, what's wrong with having more games?
Because you're not going to get more like fun mid-majors that would kind of make it more beneficial. You're not going to get those teams. You're going to get more like who's someone that missed last year that people were kind of arguing about. You're going to get more Indiana from last year in the tournament. I don't want to see more Indiana from last year in the tournament.
I think especially when you pair it with the conferences expanding and realigning, it's just going to pave the way for more like 17 and 19 conference record teams getting into the NCAA tournament, which people already hate. And yeah, I agree with Payton. I just think it's kind of a money grab. They can do the Crown in Vegas. They have the Crown.
Not
it's
NCAA sanctioned.
I know it doesn't need to be. They can have their own tournament. I just think the tournament is perfect and it doesn't need to change.
It does not. Yeah.
My opinion, I think we should go back to 64.
Just no first 4?
Yeah.
That's
what I liked it.
I go back and forth on that because I've kind of gotten used to the first 4. And I think the first 4, the way they do it, it gives like a couple 16 seeds like a chance to actually like feel like they accomplished.
The first 4 like redeems itself when you have this year with like what Alabama State did, where they had, like,
they got like
and they won that crazy game, and you're all of a sudden just rooting for them, and you kind of know who those teams are. But
yeah, I kind of go back and forth on that. I wouldn't be offended if they went back to 64, but I don't hate the first 4 very much.
Yeah,
you guys remember watching college basketball without the first 4? Because I don't. I mean, I remember watching
very seldomly.
I don't think I cared enough to like how the tournament worked at night.
Yeah.
It started in 2011. I looked it up.
2011 was the first field of 68. Field of 68. Wow. Yeah, then, I think it was more just like you could have told me that existed in 2009 when I was 8 years old and watching the tournament, and I would have just thought it's the regular NCAA tournament. I wasn't old enough to understand how all that worked. Yeah, good news. No expansion. My main bird of the week is going to go to EA Sports. EA Sports did an update to College Football 2026, and they had Mr. Brightside in the game at Michigan Stadium, the other Block M team, but they added it to Mizzou's, I guess, team and field, I don't know, environment in the new college football game. So now Mr. Brightside will play. There's a video of it. Bird Connection, of course, it's the notorious song where you have the Kansas related chant. They're the Jayhawks. There's your Bird Connection. But yeah, it's it now plays when you play at Furrow Field in the new college football video game, which I think is fun, makes it a little bit more authentic. They did not include the part where the fans chant what they chant at the bridge, unsurprisingly. But there you go. Mr. Brightside's in College Football 26. Big news.
Yeah, cool move. It's the best version of Mr. Brightside in college sports. There's no real debate on that in my mind. Nice to see that they added this. I honestly didn't expect them to.
Yeah. Hopefully they can just make the game a little bit better, but that's a different conversation. Best thing you learned, Kenny.
I was going to say real quick.
I was going to say, Kenny did get to late.
Sorry, Kenny.
Boston College one isn't all that bad. Remember, Boston College does it too, guys. Don't forget.
All right, Payton, you want us to read what Kenny learned this week?
This is actually what I learned, Jack.
sorry. Yeah,
best
you
thing
go
I
first.
learned this week, a bit of a surprise. Al Davis, who stepped down from Mizzou back in, I think it was May or so. I'm gonna check that real quick. But he's already back on the sidelines in kind of a surprise move. He's going to be he stepped down on May 16th. He is going to be the D-line coach at Rockbridge High School this fall. Matt Perkins, the head coach at Rockbridge, announced it on Twitter. He welcomed Al Davis to the team. Al Davis quote tweeted with, "I'm excited about and thankful for this opportunity at Coach Perkins. I look forward to being a part of the Bruin family. Let's go." Pretty surprising to me. I did not expect to see him coaching anywhere this year. He stepped down to focus on family members, he said back in May. I hope he's doing all right. Obviously, if it's a personal situation, it's none of my business. But good for Al Davis getting at least something to do this fall.
Rockbridge.
Rockbridge
Yep.
High School. I mean, hopefully it's that he's focusing on himself, and that seems like that was the reasoning behind his initial stepping down. Of course, I'm sure he still lives and has family in the Columbia area, and the fact he'll get to coach and still have a role on a team next year, I'm sure is good for him, because of course, passionate guy, and wants to be a part of his staff, I'm sure. So yeah, it'll be Rockbridge might have a really elite defensive line in terms of qualification. There's obviously a he's got a wealth of experience that he's bringing. So that's exciting for Rockbridge. But yeah, very interesting kind of development there. And I guess we'll keep following Al Davis, see what happens kind of going forward. Kenny, I don't know if you have anything, but what is your best thing you learned?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of connections to Rockbridge and Mizzou over the last couple of years. It's like the second, actually. I'm pulling it up right now to get the full list. But do you guys know Barry Odom was the head coach at Rockbridge?
Yes. I did know that. Yeah.
So Justin Smith, this didn't really last very long. It was only 2022, but Justin Smith was the defensive line coach at Rockbridge.
And then he's a head coach somewhere now, isn't he? I'll do that research.
Yeah, and like mid-mo maybe.
Yeah.
And then Connor Tollison helped out this past year just during the offseason when he was coming back from his injury and was helping out some of those guys in the weight room. So there's still a lot of connections, even though like Rockbridge isn't really churning out players from Mizzou. Like in recent memory, I think the only one that comes to mind is Martez Manuel. There was a punter at one point too, but he transferred out.
Where did Nate Pete go?
Oh, Nate Pete went to Rockbridge. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So I was thinking more directly, but yeah. So there's two, real contributors to Mizzou in the last, say 5 to 6 years. It came from Rockbridge. Oh my gosh, actually, there's three. The punter in 2022, the kickoffs.
Was it
God. Graham McInnes?
No.
20. Oh, I know who you're talking about. What is his name?
Yeah, that's the other guy.
Yeah. He only did kickoffs too. I don't know that he ever attempted an extra point even.
Oh, Will Norris went to Rockbridge. Bryce Jackson.
Got a rule change.
Nate Norris's brother was a walk-on. Sean Keating. That was the kicker.
Sean Ketting, yeah.
Yeah. Some good connections.
A lot of good connections.
It is right down the road.
I can't find where Justin Smith coaches now. I'll have to do some more research. But Kenny, what did you learn this week?
A former coordinator for Missouri football, Derek Dooley, has announced that he's running for the U.S. Senate in the state of Georgia. Yeah, a little commercial if you guys haven't seen it. I don't know if we can show that on YouTube, but it was something that was kind of rumored for a while, but he officially announced it this week. The funny thing, like On3 Sports wrote this story, no mention of Missouri at all. His time there, it was like his last stop as a college football coach, or he might have been an analyst. I think he was at Alabama at one point too. So
he was at Alabama in 2022, I think. 2023 maybe.
So his last real football job, as a coordinator was with Missouri. But I think it should be a former Missouri coordinator, not former coach.
Yeah, he did not have a very good record as a head coach either.
Yeah, the offense was also not very good in 2019.
Yeah, I don't think it's
all I'm going to add on this.
I don't really have a thought. I mean,
Mizzou's offense was not good the one year he was at Mizzou the same time as we were.
Mhm.
You've seen this before. I mean, he's not the first former coach to go and do this. So guess we'll see. My best thing I learned this week. This is a callback a bit to we were talking about this when the men's basketball team revealed their SEC opponents a couple of months ago, I think now at this point. The dates were posted for the SEC schedule for Mizzou men's basketball. And boy, oh boy, I don't think people are uber happy with how it turned out for Mizzou. I'm only going to bring your attention to the first 4 games of the SEC regular season for the men's basketball team, which starts out with a home game January 3rd against Florida, followed by 2 road games, one of which will either be played on the 6th or 7th of January at Kentucky. Followed that up by a road trip to Ole Miss on January 10th before Mizzou returns home on either January 13th or 14th. Those are the Tuesday, Wednesday games, by the way. That's why it's an either or date. Some of those change. In a home game against Auburn, not only is that a brutal on paper schedule, but I would argue 2 of the 3 best home games for Mizzou fans are going to be played during the students' winter break. So that is awesome. Awesome stuff. But anyway, the SEC dates are set for Mizzou men's basketball.
Florida being January 3rd sucks. That really does suck because I think that would be a crazy good environment. Maybe there will be at least a half decent amount of students that come back for that game. But that I would have loved to have seen that be like a nice February evening in mid-Mo. I think if you just get one of those first 4, you're going to be happy probably. Makes those next 2 against LSU and Georgia non-negotiable in my mind.
Yeah, definitely.
God gives his toughest battles to Mizzou fans. I feel like that's something I've seen a couple of times when this just kind of pops up. My only big thing from this, and this just keeps happening when I see Georgia on a Mizzou schedule, that's the Grambling State logo. Like
that because it's yellow. Yeah,
Grambling State. It always comes to mind. You see that Georgia logo. I think Georgia needs a different basketball logo.
It's well done. Nice analysis.
Thank you.
Done.
Yeah, you guys talked about it. Yeah.
LSU January 17th, Georgia January 20th to 21st, Oklahoma January 24th, at Alabama January 27th to 28th, home against Mississippi State, at South Carolina, at Texas A&M, home against Texas, home against Vandy, at Arkansas, home against Tennessee, at Mississippi State, at Oklahoma, and home against Arkansas. In that order is the rest of the conference slate. I didn't want to read all the dates, but yeah, brutal, absolutely brutal start to SEC play. So hopefully all those elite non-con opponents, hopefully that exhibition against Kansas State can get you prepared for that. For Mizzou men's hoops. Payton, do you have a joke to sign us off for the pod?
I sure do, Jack. This is an easy one, guys, and it comes from our favorite TV series, The Today Show. Guys, why did the pony ask for a glass of water? Easy. Easy.
He had been riding with Ahmad Hardy too long. Do you guys know
this
Ahmad
is
Hardy?
So easy. Come on.
Oh, that's funny.
He was a little horse. Yeah. Boom.
Yes. There you go. Boom. This is listed right underneath the iconic "How do you hire a horse? Put up a ladder" joke.
I actually thought about this like a couple nights ago when I was going to sleep. I don't get it. I still don't. Yeah.
My thought was, I still don't understand.
I think the joke is supposed to be that you are literally hiring a horse with a ladder, like you're putting a horse on a ladder.
But then you could just apply that for like anything.
Yeah, but that's still dumb.
It's dumb.
That joke still sucks.
You could say it about anything.
Yeah, exactly. You could say, how do you hire a frog? Put it on a ladder. It doesn't make
which
sense.
Is why I also think I could be wrong about that because it's so dumb.
All right, that's a good note to end it on. First defensive position preview on Monday. We will do defensive line. Until then, take it easy and give us a prediction on how Mizzou men's basketball is going to do in those first 4 games of SEC play. I'd love to hear the argument for winning more than 2 games of those grouping of 4. But anyway, drop that down below. Thanks everyone for watching, following on the series. So excited for the regular season to come back. Only a couple of weeks away from that Central Arkansas game, so that'll be very fun. Until then, we'll see you next time.